The Pulse of Spokane is a broad show that showcases many different things in our community, sponsored by Local 29 Firefighters Union, Well Dressed Walrus, and Homes for You. Well, welcome to a Pulse edition here today. It's Wednesday morning, 10 o'clock as we do this, and it's going to be another warm one. I think everyone is trying to figure out if it's going to break 100 today. It's scheduled for Thursday at, well, one guy tells me 102, another person says 103. You know, anything over about 95 is kind of max anyway. We've got a great program today. Cindy Wendell is here from GSI to talk about Open Together. There's a longer name, and I'm going to make her say it when we come back right after this.
I'm Representative Jenny Graham. The infamous Green River serial killer altered my life forever after my sister Debbie was murdered. As I became an advocate for victims and communities, I learned that you have to work hard to get anything done. I strive to be one of the state's hardest working legislators, fighting for schools, families, and small businesses against taxes that destroy jobs. I'm honored to represent you, and I'd appreciate your vote once again.
Paid for by the committee to elect Jenny Graham, Republican.
Too often our veterans aren't getting the care that they need when they need it. They might be told that they have to go to Seattle or Portland or Boise. The veterans deserve the best care.
That's why Kathy is fighting to fix the VA and eliminate the wait list. The proud wife of a veteran, Kathy delivered for Fairchild Air Force Base. Funding for more air tankers, better pay for those who serve. Their champion, our voice.
I'm Kathy McMorris-Rogers, and I approve this message.
Well, welcome back. The last few months have been crazy, to say the least. All of the businesses have been hit, whether they're a large concern or a local mom and pop in our area. Unfortunately, I have seen too many go out of businesses and others right on the brink of going out of business. And the fact is, today we're going to be talking about another way to help people, business owners, small businesses, and nonprofits. Cindy Wendell from GSI, and your focus right now is on this Open Together to help businesses. Now, the dollars, $10 million, comes from the Spokane County as part of the CARES Act, right?
Yes.
Am I getting this correct?
Yes.
There's so many programs out there, it's kind of like, you know, how many times have we heard PPP mentioned as PPE, and you know, it's like you almost need a side dictionary today. You've been involved in the business community. You know about business. Some of our businesses are really hurting, and they're still struggling. Some of them got some help, but that isn't enough, especially as things continue to trail on, closings and so forth. You got $10 million, and as GSI, you're kind of managing all of that with Innovia.
Yes, Innovia is one of our partners.
Right. Tell us about this, and then we'll get into the process of how people can take advantage of it. But what's the basic purpose here?
The basic purpose is, you know, you have to look back and where did the funding come from? Because you mentioned there's so many different programs out there for small businesses, nonprofits, individuals.
Right.
So we really look at where is the money coming from, and you mentioned the Federal CARES Act. So this money went directly to the county, and then the county commissioners are trying to figure out their buckets of where to spend the money.
Is this the $90 million we're talking about? Okay.
This is part of that $90 million. So they designated 10 of that to go, and their request to us was, can you make sure that this money gets out to some of our small businesses and our nonprofits? They really wanted to include nonprofits in this as well. So that was our mandate, and then we look at where the funding comes from. Mm-hmm. And it is really to offset COVID-related expenses due to the COVID-19 public health emergency. So for our small businesses, and we understand, we've talked about, like, the impact can be just awful, right? Yeah. And it is still coming. We still don't even know what the future looks like for these businesses. But what we do want to understand is, for me, is I'm passionate that every business is as unique as an individual.
Right.
And so how can we set up a process that adheres to the guidelines, the federal guidelines of where this money can be spent? Mm-hmm. And the priority is given to businesses that had impact from COVID-19 and related expenses due to that business interruption. So there's a very specific way that we look at that, and then how we created the application to ask those questions.
Now, I sat in the other day, and watched the, what do you call it, webinar.
Yes.
Which was, I thought, very good and easy to follow.
Oh, thank you.
So,
good.
you know, even at my age, right? Good information. There are 2 applications, one for nonprofits and one for businesses, and a number of other things, but a lot of similarities between them, but some specific questions for each area. I noticed when you asked for people to click in at the beginning how many nonprofits and how many small businesses, it was pretty close, half and half. I think it was 52 to 48 or something like that, which is within the margin of error, if you will, and so forth. And we do have an excellent nonprofit community that really does a lot of good in our area. And we've had many on the shows and so forth who are that close as well to going out, and how they're going to meet some of their needs, and they're helping handicapped kids, and I mean the stories go on, and so they're of need as well. Have you had a lot of questions since the start of the webinars, which you're doing several, but have you had a lot of questions?
We have, and again, I go back to how every business is unique. And you know, I've been a business owner, and there's certain things about your business that you want to be able to tell your story.
Yes.
Why it's different, and why the impact may be different on your business. And at the end of the day, what I'm so passionate about, again, and that what I love about business owners is it's never about them. It's about how they're serving the community. And we're trying to make sure that when we invest in our businesses, that those business owners are saying, this is how we've impacted our community. Like, these are how many employees are at risk of losing their job. It's not about the business owner making money. It's about what this business does for the community, what the nonprofit does for the community. And that's the story that we want to make sure is told. And so the questions that come to us that we've been fielding, so we have an email inbox. So it's grantinfo@greaterspokane.org. And on the nonprofit side, it's info@anovia.org.
Okay.
We want to make sure, and we are starting to get lots of email. We anticipated that.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Which is why we have the webinars set up, additional ones, and we'll have more next week as well to address some questions. But I talked to one business owner this morning, and I said, you know, some of these questions you can answer in a webinar, but again, every business is unique. And so I encourage businesses to email the inbox, because then we can really tailor the answer to help them figure out, okay, well, how do we help share your impact story? Is it through your reduction in gross revenue? Is it through the narrative questions, which we have 2 to 3, depending on if it's the nonprofit side or the business side, to help tell your story? But we're also, there are Q&A docs on our website as well, and we're updating those. So I encourage anybody that has some questions to go to those Q&A documents
Check
first.
at least daily, if not more often.
Absolutely, because they're live. They're actual web pages that we set up, and so we can go in and edit those and add to them as we get questions in and elevate the more common questions. Yeah, absolutely. One
of the things, I mean, I've talked over the last month or two with many small business owners, because we focus on small business here and community. And anytime they've talked about we may have to close, it's never been about them. Yes, it's about serving the community, but it's also about their employees. And here are people who may go bankrupt because of COVID-19 and the closing of businesses and so forth, or they've borrowed more money, or whatever it may be. And their number one concern are their employees and serving the community. And so it's you're right. It's never really about, you know, people talk about, well, they've got their own small business, they're set for life and all that. Well, we know now they're not set for life. Things happen, unfortunately, and we've got to move forward. You opened the application process this last Monday.
Yes.
And you have people have, nonprofits and small businesses have 2 weeks to get the answers in, right? And fill out all the paperwork. And by the way, I will tell people, it's not a terribly complicated form. Okay.
By design.
Yeah.
It's very intentional that way.
Somebody in government didn't do it. Okay.
We have a business perspective and a nonprofit perspective going in and
Exactly.
creating those applications.
You were very involved, weren't you?
Very.
Very
Yes.
involved. Okay. Yeah. And you come from both worlds, which is really helpful because you understand sitting on boards and everything else and from being part of a small business. So it's not that bad. In fact, we were able to get you for 10 minutes this morning, so we haven't sent notes and we captured you before we did this program. But I would encourage our small businesses and our nonprofits, especially smaller nonprofits, that are hand to mouth. I mean, I've had one in last week that they typically will give out grants to help kids, handicapped kids and so forth, of about 80,000 twice a year.
Wow.
And they're looking at their fundraiser this fall probably won't produce half that.
If they're lucky.
Okay, and
Yeah.
that's just one of a number of stories. You can probably talk about some too. But the fact is, this is a time that we need to take advantage of these dollars and make our community well again, as much as possible. So 2 weeks. The deadline date is?
August 10th at 11:59 p.m.
Oh, okay.
I did want to mention one thing that we talked about in the webinar, and you heard yesterday a little bit, is I think some of the business owners have gotten used to this whole rush factor of trying to get the money before it's gone.
Yes.
And then we saw that with the PPP program.
Yes.
We saw that with the Working Washington Small Business Grants. There's just this rush because there's so much need.
Right.
That we wanted to make sure this process was a little different.
Yeah.
And so it is open for 2 weeks, but it doesn't matter when your application is submitted, as long as it's submitted before 11:59 p.m. on the 10th.
Right.
Take your time.
Yes.
Reach out to us and ask
Because
us
we know
questions.
we know both the small businesses and nonprofits are busy right now trying to survive.
Oh, yes.
You know, and where do you find the extra hours to do this?
Right.
Between 9 and midnight. You know.
As most people, I mean, I think we all know with those with young kids, and you're trying to do some schooling, and then you're trying to work, and then, you know, so many of us are working. I would love to see statistics of how many of us are working between the hours of 10 and 2 a.m., right?
Yeah.
Versus the normal working hours.
Yeah,
but
quit calling me at that hour. No, but that's true, isn't it?
yes, it is. So take the time,
Yeah.
ask for advice as far as how we can help you get the right information,
Yes.
the correct information into the application.
Because you're not going to follow up and call and say, well, I don't understand this. It's got to be there. So
got to
ask
be
the
there.
questions between now and August 10th.
Yep.
Okay.
And like you mentioned, it's a pretty streamlined process. We tried to make this, what the whole goal is to make it as accessible as we can to all of our eligible businesses and nonprofits, reduce barriers in the process, which is, it's a very intentional way of looking at things. But if I asked for, I would love to see a profit loss statement. I would love to see all these other things. But in my mind, is that's going to shut some people out from applying for this.
Yeah.
Because it's too time intensive. It's some of these small business owners don't have that information right at hand. We
Right,
only have
right.
2 weeks to apply. So what can we ask for and decrease the amount of time and documents that we're requiring,
Right.
but we get the right information
Right.
and we can assess which businesses truly are impacted
Right.
and need the money. And so I really commend all the partners that have been a part of the process
Yeah.
because we've looked at that. We've looked at how we can ask about impact in the community as well and serving some of our vulnerable populations, low income, the businesses that serve specific communities,
I was
all
going to say,
those factors.
you're factoring all that in and so forth. And I think that's important. Okay, so at midnight on the 10th,
Yes.
you start the process, right? And it'll all be done by the next day at noon?
Right?
Is that a no?
It is important that the funding gets out to businesses as soon as possible.
Yes.
So the commissioners was like, how soon could you get this funding out? It's important to get it out soon. It was really important to me and some of our team members that we deal with some of the September payments that businesses may have as far as rent, payroll.
Right.
So we looked at our process. We didn't want to wait all the way until October.
Right.
But backing it up until September really put a time crunch into this process.
Yeah.
But we're going to be notifying grant award recipients by the 1st of September
Okay.
via email. And then that week we will start sending out their checks.
Yeah.
And so
But just
they should get
knowing
funding
it's
soon.
coming
Yes.
can allow someone to sleep that night.
Well, and to talk
know?
to their landlord and
Yeah.
to talk to their employees and to at least know the money is coming.
Right.
The other process, too, is this is different, that you are going to get the money as a business up front.
Okay.
We are not going to ask you to submit receipts. We're not going to reimburse your expenses.
Okay.
We ask you what your expenses are.
Right.
We go ahead and do
But
an
keep
allocation.
records for a possible audit
Yes.
at some point, not by
Yes.
you, but by the feds.
Yes, we may. I mean, there may be questions asked along the way, like
Right.
any of this CARES money down the road for the next year or two.
Right.
So yes, as a business, always document it on hand and keep it accessible to
Right.
you. But this is, again, we want to get money in the hands quickly.
Yes.
So we're not going to wait for reimbursements requests. We're just going to give you the money.
Okay.
Yep.
What about sole proprietors and others?
Yes, so sole proprietors and contract employees, 1099
Okay.
employees, they are eligible up to $2,500.
Okay.
If this is their sole source of income.
Oh, okay.
So not a second job, not a side job, but if this is your sole source of income.
Sole, not major source of income?
Well, I would say if it is your primary job. So if you spend more
okay.
than, if you're working hours, more than 50% of your working hours at that job, then that's considered your your primary source of income.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I can think of some friends and so forth that maybe this is what they're doing at one place is cut back, but that's like 60% of their dollars, but they still make a few dollars here and there in small projects that they may or may not know about. You know, they get today and do it tomorrow or the next week and so forth. And, you know, it's like, how do I make some money this week or next or for the next month?
Well, a lot of us, I mean, a lot of people are in that.
Yeah.
I'm a contract employee right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of us just don't know day to day.
Yeah,
what
we
you're gonna
want
be
to
doing.
audit your contract. Did you bring? No, I'm kidding. What else do people need to know?
This is, we want people to help us. We want business owners to help share it.
Okay.
A lot of businesses, there's a lot of other businesses that businesses engage with
Yeah.
as vendors, as clients and
So
customers.
tell people.
So tell people.
Yes.
Share it. As part of this community, help us make sure this entire community knows about this program.
Yeah.
It still fascinates me as much as we all try to do our best through different channels of communication, and this being one of them. Thank you very much to you and your team for doing this for us.
You're welcome.
But if people can email their other friends, if they can, when they go out and when I go out to places of business and when I'm like, do you know that we have a grant program through the county
Yes.
right now? every restaurant I'm going to, every business, did you know we have this
Well, they're
available?
heads down trying to take care of business today and survive. And they may not read the paper or see the TV news or whatever. And so let's spread the word out there. So all of you that are watching this program, do us a favor. Share this with your Facebook friends and others, okay? So that they know that this is available. And, you know, most of our viewers come within a week after the program has been posted. So you have time to, and your friends have time to apply. So let's get out there and take advantage of this, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Yes. Let's get some
and
money
thanks
in
to
the
our
hands.
county commissioners
Oh.
for including small business and nonprofits. You know, it would be easy for them to use it internally or somewhere else, and to know that. And I know the commissioners, and I know you know them. They care about our businesses in this community. They know that they support, especially small businesses, the Little League teams and everything else out there, okay? And so they see this as helping, yes, maybe a shop of 5 people like us or some of 40 people, and I know it goes up to 49 or less of folks, but that spreads out there. And that's what's important. So let's get those dollars circulating, right?
That is so important. And like you said, I think from their perspective, a business, we have to switch our mindset a little bit that a business isn't necessarily this random entity, right?
Yeah.
Businesses are people.
Yeah.
They serve people. And so by serving businesses, we serve people.
Yeah.
And that's what they really wanted to do. And that's what we're out here to do too.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So good luck
Thank
on the 11th.
It's going to be a fun, busy couple weeks.
You're going to turn off your phone and everything else, aren't you, to get it?
Going to do a little horseback riding and some fishing
Oh,
for the
okay.
next couple days and get myself revved back up
Yeah,
for the
because
process.
it's going to be intense.
Yes.
But
Yes.
thank you for you and your team, because it's not just you, and I know that, for digging deep and to make this happen.
We have a lot of community partners that are going to
Yeah.
be engaged in this, and I may have some more information on that too. So I want to shout out to Inovia.
Okay.
It's been a big part of this process,
yes.
And some other
They've stepped up
partners.
in many ways, haven't
Yes,
they?
Ahana has done a phenomenal job for us
Great.
and others, but we'll get more information for you to maybe share with your listeners too
Absolutely.
about some other
Absolutely.
partners.
Absolutely, and we will. And those of you watching, especially on Facebook, share this with your friends, okay? Let's get the word out there so that a lot of folks can take advantage of this, and you may be helping your neighbor or friend by getting some dollars to that business where they work. Thank you, Cindy. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Thank you.
All right. Hey, thanks for watching this edition of The Pulse of Spokane.
When we opened the doors the first day, we started with a counter full of maybe a dozen selections of a dozen cupcakes. We sold out, and it just went crazy from there. I'm Sally. I run Sweet Frosting's Blissful Bake Shop downtown Spokane. It's almost 40 years of baking for me. We now do between 1,000 and 2,000 cupcakes a day. The variety of cupcakes is kind of like the variety of services that STCU provides for us. Since we opened this site in 2014, they've been our banker. We are producing for 4 stores right here, so we have 35 to 40 employees at any one time. There's an STCU close to virtually every one of my stores, and every time I get a new employee, that's the first place we send them. STCU is such a good fit. It's just so convenient for me to have them as neighbors. They are always so pleasant and always so helpful, and we have a lot of little needs. They've always been behind me 100%, so it's a good thing to have that partnership.
Here at River Ridge Hardware, we carry a great selection of Krylon brand spray paints, Color Master, general purpose, the Rust Protector for taking care of metal, Fusion for taking care of plastics, and the Super Max that can take care of it all.
Thanks for watching. Ask the host a question, recommend a guest, or check out any of our other programs on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com. Sponsored by Local 29 Firefighters Union, Well Dressed Walrus, and Homes for You.